So today's round is at Christmas Lakes up in Santa Claus, Indiana. Beautiful day, 75 degrees, sunny, a little bit windy. But for mid to late October in Indiana, 75 is a good thing. So the White Tees playing this first hole about 345 yards, hit a driver down the right-hand side, but everything feeds right to left. So ended up in the middle of the fairway. Only had about 70 yards uphill and hit my sand wedge a little bit left, so it left me about 40 or 50 feet, it seemed like. And these greens were very slick today. And that one I thought was uphill, and it went past a good 10-15 feet. So now I have this little tricky downhiller. It just runs, you can see these putts are just running out. So I had one hand, the 2-footer back up the hill for disappointing bogey. This hole was playing 375 downhill to the left. Hit a really good drive, kind of a low stinger that went through the far end of the dog leg, but only left me about 75 yards to the pin, which left me with a sand wedge that I hit pretty good. Left me about 15 feet uphill for birdie. Pretty good putt, and I thought it was going to stop at the hole, but it kept rolling out. The wind caught it, and it kind of moved down the hill a little bit, right to the left of the pin. And again, you can see how these greens were just extremely slick today. So a little knee knocker, 2.5 feet to make the par. This hole's playing 350 uphill to the left, water left. Definitely have to keep it right. And I do, maybe a little bit too much, but with me about 100 yards uphill with my 50 degree. Actually, I think that might have been my pitching wedge. Yeah, and I hit that really well. It was up into the wind. I think that's why I took an extra club. I have this 10-footer uphill for birdie and get it to drop. So gets me back to even after 3 holes. And this par 5 is playing 540, but downhill. If you can get a drive to the right, everything feeds back to the left. You just cannot go left. And I took a little off, started it down the left side, and then it just pulled left. And then I had this little window to get back to the fairway, but clipped the tree, and it dropped it down to the left, about 10 yards ahead of where that tree was. And now I'm just going to take my medicine and pop it straight sideways back down to the fairway, and actually get a pretty good roll since everything is kind of downhill at this point. It still left me a good 220 yards uphill, and was just going to hit a 4 iron and kind of scruff it, but hit it to about 70 yards, and I chipped it to here. I missed the chip, didn't get that on the camera. Hit a really good chip, had to get it right over a mound, had very little green to work with. So I had that to save a bogey, which would have been great, but that was a downhill putt, and that went a good 6 feet past. Came back up the hill for 7, and disappointing triple bogey 8 after a birdie. So back to the drawing board. Started off with a par 3. It was playing about 150. with the wind though, and I think I hit a 9-iron and hit it really solid. Just a little bit short though, about 20 feet uphill. Left me this 2.5, 3-footer that is probably still upset about the triple bogey and just kind of walked up and did that. So disappointing bogey. This par 5 was playing 460. It's on the short side, but the drive is a little uphill. Didn't hit a great drive to the left rough, but I hit a really good 5-wood here, one of my best ones of the day. Put about 250 to the green. Actually, I had about 240 to the green and hit it about 20 yards short and hit a really good chip just over that mound. Again, I had a lot of chips over mounds today for whatever reason, but that was a good one. 4 or 5 feet for birdie, and that helps recovery a little bit from that triple. So on to a par 4, 350. Hit a nice drive right down the middle. I think I hit it to about 70 yards. And actually it was about 80 yards, 56 degree. Didn't hit it great, not terrible, just didn't make good contact, left me a little short. And again, thought I hit a pretty good chip, but just haven't figured these greens out yet as it goes by a good 10 to 12 feet. So this coming back for par and get it to drop. So good par after a birdie, needed that. This hole's playing 400 yards and probably my best drive. Well, it was my best drive of the day and probably my best drive in about a month. Caught it on the screws, caught the little, you have to catch a little downslope at about 260 yards, and I caught that and it went another 40. So I had about 100 yards up the hill into the wind, hit my 50 degree wedge. Hit it okay, didn't hit it great, but pretty good spot to leave it. Uphill, about 20 feet. And just missed. But on that hole, that was a 400-yard par 4 into the wind, and to walk off with a tap-in par, I'll take it. So this par 3 was playing about 175. I think it was kind of a side wind. I hit a 6-iron and thought I was going right at the pin, and it flew right over it, hit the green, and then just rolled up into that rough. So I had about a 50-foot chip downhill, and it just rolled out to the left of the pin. Which left me a uphill putt, 10 to 12 feet for par. Which right now, I think I was sitting at 3 over for the 9, which I can attribute to that triple bogey, unfortunately. So this would be nice to make and get out of here with a 39, but can't do it, so I end up with 40. Not terrible. This is probably my second best drive of the day. This is another 400-yard par 4 side wind, and I caught the right side of the fairway, which feeds everything down to the left. But again, another so-so 56 degree from inside of 100 yards, and then another average at best chip. It just ran out. So this comebacker for par, can't do it, and I ended up making that comeback 2-footer for bogey, and then the group ahead of me let me play through. So I did not record or video the next hole number, which would be hole 11, which was playing 390 And on that hole, I hit a really good drive. Again, almost 300 yards, 290. Had about 100 yards, and I ended up hitting it to about 10 feet with a 50 degree, and then missed the 2-putt for par. So 1 over going into this hole, par 3, number 12, playing 197 with the wind. I sort of flared a 5-wood out to the right, about pin high. Had about 20 yards. And I thought I hit a pretty good chip again over a mound, but I think it caught that mound and then rolled out to about 20 feet past the pin, and then I had missed that par putt and tapped it in for bogey. So back to 2 over. This par 5 is playing 480 into the wind, and I did not hit a great drive. It flared out to the right, but hit another good 5-wood. The 5-wood had really saved me today. It's about 250 to the pin and hit it pin high, left to the green side bunker, and then had another chip over over the sand trap and tried to hit the perfect chip. If I could have landed it about another 5 or 6 feet onto that fringe, it might have rolled out a little bit. And then hit that chip from the fringe past about 8 or 10 feet. And that was just a bad putt. Just never had it on line. And I still have this 2.5, 3-footer just to make 6. So disappointing bogey. So I'm 3 over going into number 14, par 3, playing about 140, I believe, 135 or 140, and hit a 9-iron. I thought I hit it really solid, but just short in the fringe to the right. Good news, even though that was about a 25, 30-foot putt, it was uphill. So I had a much better putt for par, which I made. So on to a par 4, playing 350. I have a 5-wood because there is a creek that runs down the middle of the fairway, across the fairway at about 240. So I sort of punched a 5-wood, not very far. I'm not even sure it went 200 yards because I still had a 6-iron into the wind, which I hit really solid. The wind just held it up and just short of the green. But again, uphill putt, and this green slopes severely from back to front. So did not want to be over that pin. So hit a pretty good putt, about a 30-footer up the hill. And I think I was able to tap this one in for a pretty good par on this hole. So it keeps me at 3 over. 16 is a par 5, playing 480, dead into the wind. One of the few holes that went straight back into the wind. I hit a really good drive, but it probably only went about 230, 40 yards, which left me 250 into the wind, and I hit another great 5-wood right down the middle. Got a good bounce and roll. I only had about 30-yard chip to the pin. Left it a little shorter than I would have liked. Still had about 20 feet or so uphill. But again, uphill being the key on these greens today. And tap in for par. So hanging tough at 3 over. Need to par out the last 2 holes to break 80. And this is a 370-yard par 4 dogleg right. He had another great drive, solid contact, just through the dogleg though, into this kind of thickish rough. I have an 8-iron about 145 yards. And easily my best iron of the day. Hit it solid. It's going right at the pin. I just wasn't positive about the distance. But as you can see there's the divot or the ball mark that it left on the green. So it basically stopped right where it landed, which is surprising coming out of that rough. I just got really lucky. I guess I got it high enough. So I have this 4 or 5 footer for birdie, and this broke hard left to right, and then it kind of went down the hill, so that was kind of in my head. And probably lucky it caught some of that hole, because it might have gone another 2 or 3 feet past. So disappointing par. And 18 is 360 yards straight up the hill. Kind of hit just a knockdown driver. I don't know what I was thinking, but didn't want to get crazy and end up in the trees on this hole. So still had about a good 6-iron in up the hill, and this was also into the wind and kind of overdrew it to the left of the green. And chipped over that mound, and it caught the mound and kicked it about 20 feet past, and had an uphill putt for par, but couldn't get it to drop. So tap in bogey, which gives me a round of 40 on the back. So 40 on the front, 40 on the back for an 80, which not too bad. I'll take it. See you on the next one.